Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of The Ripple Effect, presented by Old Bear Records. We're excited that you're joining us tonight as we launch a new series. So we're broadcasting live from Emphasis Films here in Nashville. We're really thankful that you're joining us. I've got my good friend and co-host with me here, Mr. Joel Russo. Say hi, Joel. Yes.
Hey everybody.
Yes.
Happy Monday.
And we also have our good friend and first guest, Jessica Crawford, all the way down here from New Jersey.
Hi! Super excited! Woo!
So I've got to introduce Jess. Jess and I, we met probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and we've written a lot of songs together, and we've done a lot of ministry together and toured together. And she was one of the core writers on my album, and she has since gone up to be the worship leader for a wonderful church in New Jersey called Fountain of Life. And so we're really excited to have her with us. She has a new 4-song EP that was recorded at Old Bear Studios coming out this Friday. It's an EP that's called Honestly. And so we're going to be talking about that tonight. We're going to be getting to know her a little bit because our desire is to equip you with information and knowledge that's going to be able to inspire you to take your art to the next level and have very practical tools and information through our experiences, through our bumps and bruises, and through our victories so that you can go ahead and you can start creating your own ripple effect in the areas of influence that you have. So if you guys are ready, I'd love to get started.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel great. You want me to go first?
I think
I'm
that's...
going to ask the first question of the ripple effect. I think it deserves a bit of a drum roll. So Jessica.
Yes.
We're all three of us have spent a lot of time on the road, as I'm sure a lot of people who are watching have, a lot of our friends have. One of the challenges, and I don't mean to prop this up as more, intense than it needs to be, but this is pretty important. One of the main challenges of being on the road is, where do you stop for lunch when you're on the highway and you got that blue sign and you got McDonald's, Steak and Shake,
Arby's.
Like, we got some stuff that's just, that 30 minutes after you eat it, you're going to be wishing that you were dead. Mm-hmm. So how do you, Jessica Crawford, deal with eating on the road? Let's say you have to be away from home for several days in a row.
Yeah.
What are the decisions that you make, and how do you avoid pitfalls of nutritional?
It's such a good question, and it's so hard to do. But I'd say number one is good planning. If you can think ahead and pack some stuff that's doable or easy, like healthy snacks. I eat a lot of Quest bars on the road, or when I'm traveling, because those are decent in the way of, like, protein bars and stuff, or nuts, or fruit, or whatever, like things that are easy to take with. And then I keep my eyes peeled for Paneras and Chipotles.
Yes.
Because those, at least you can feel a little bit better about, But I can't do normal fast food. It just is not.
It's tough.
It won't work.
But don't let her fool you. She's like kind of like a bad influence on everybody else's eating habits.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, I mean, we were in Florida this one time, right? And
if I break bad, I'm gonna break bad.
Yeah.
What did I do?
If you're gonna go
you
for
encouraged.
it.
Well, I mean, I was eating a hamburger, and you caught me eating a hamburger, and you like encouraged like more hamburger.
That's
eating.
because sometimes you never eat anything, and I was like, "You're finally eating a burger. Have another."
I can personally attest to the fact that Ian does not eat food. And
Never.
I think we're always trying to get him to eat food.
Right.
Yeah. That's
I
good.
was just being a good friend.
That's true.
Yeah. Ian, as someone who doesn't eat food, where do you stop on the road?
I just pull over and read my Bible.
Very good. Very good.
The bread of life.
Yes.
Great. Well, yeah, Panera, Chipotle, I thoroughly am vibing with your decisions. Yeah,
So if you guys, if they want to sponsor me or something or give me free gift cards, I'd be totally cool with that.
It's out there. It's out there on the internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, if you're just tuning in, just wanted to let you know that this is something that is sponsored by Old Bear Records, and so we just want to note that if you're just joining us, we have our good friend Jessica Crawford here, who has a new EP that's coming out on this on this Friday. It's called Honestly, and we're just getting to know her right now. So I guess the next question that we want to ask would be...
Ian, I did forget to say one thing, and we both have.
Okay.
If you all out in internet land have any questions that you want to be asking us or Jessica during this hour or so, please let us. This is on Facebook Live, so you can send in get those fingers typing, and if we think it's good enough, and there will be some editorial power.
Yeah. Which actually is, we are not the editors. It's somebody else. So if you have
an
an issue,
undisclosed third party is going to feed that to us through some means that we're not going to tell you about. Yeah. But please give us your questions. We'd love to hear them and to share them amongst the three of us. Absolutely. So I'm so sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay.
I'd love to hear your question.
That's okay. So the question would be, so what made you want to do music in the first place? I mean, everybody has a different story. What's your story? What made you want to do it?
That's such a good question, because I actually didn't want to do music in the first place. I think, plot twist. I really didn't have any intention of being a musician. My mom was a musician. She's classically trained and masters in music. And then my dad's mom was classically trained. And then my mom's dad is just crazy natural talent musician. He can just sit down and play just about anything on the piano or his little what do you call this?
Accordion.
Accordion. Yeah, he can play the accordion and guitar, whatever. And I just never felt qualified to be a musician because I struggled through piano lessons. I couldn't read music very well. My piano teacher was telling my mom, who knows what she's doing, she's not. Well, actually, my mom was telling my piano teacher, she's not reading music. And she was like, oh no, she's doing great. And I was just faking it till I made it, until I couldn't anymore, and then begged my parents to quit. And it was like probably one of the biggest fits I ever remember throwing. It was like, don't make me do it. I hate it so much. And it was so dramatic. But they finally let me quit. And I never felt like a musician because I just didn't get reading music. And I thought that that's what it took. And so I kind of always was involved in music. And, my mom, of course, as a music teacher, was really encouraging. And my dad, too. They were always my biggest fans. And it was so sweet to this day. I can look back and see all of the ways that they encouraged me and put me in voice lessons and encouraged me to do select choirs and audition for things. And I did it. And I was even in a band with my best friend in college. And we had a great time doing that. But I just didn't see a future for me in music because I was so practically minded. I was like, well, you get a real job and you get married and you settle down. That's what you do. And I wasn't like about to try to go chase a touring dream or something because it just wasn't my dream. So, yeah.
It's interesting. That can be a little damaging, I think. As I used to teach guitar, and I think when I started, I always thought that it had to be about the notes and teaching kids how to read music, And as you kind of maybe get a little bit older and then do it a little more, you start to realize that all the people that you really admire didn't learn that way. Right. And so it's so important to make sure that you're paying attention to the soul, let's say the soul and the spirit of the music, just as much as any technical. I'm sure we'll get into that as we talk. But that's really important. Okay. Sweet. Well, so your answer is that you didn't want to at first, and now you find yourself doing it. Yeah. It's what you do. Yeah. It's what takes up most of your time. So how did that happen? When did that turn happen? Where did you make the decision to do this as a career?
Yeah. Okay. So when I hit my lowest low in life, when my world really fell apart, was when I would say my most broken, I became the most sensitive to the voice of God. And in seeking God in kind of that broken space, is when he persistently kept just encouraging me in the direction of music. And it was so clear and so persistent. I don't even fully know how to describe it. It was through just a lot of time and a lot of different encounters with God that it would take me too long to even get into here. But just to say that God is so real. And he's so real, especially in our brokenness, that I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was like nagging, persistent, like I'm not letting this go. And I would have these frustrated, prayerful conversations with the Lord, like, you don't want me in music? Yeah, like, you have so many talented people in this world who are just incredibly gifted, phenomenal singers, songwriters, whatever. And because I knew I could sing, I knew I was a songwriter, and thought, well, maybe one day I'll sell songs to someone else, for someone else to sing. Like, that was kind of my little secret music dream, was like, oh, what if I ever just like wrote a hit for someone? That'd be so cool. But it wasn't like something I ever was like, I'm going to pursue this and make it happen. And so I kept trying to push the Lord in the direction of other people. It was really funny. I was like, oh, no, you don't want me for that. I'm not good enough. I'm not. And I would try to like essentially talk him out of me. And he just didn't want to listen. So eventually I just really had to surrender to that. And I remember this moment, this really pivotal moment where I'd kept my big toe in music here and there, mostly because of the encouragement of my parents. And there was a sound engineer that I'd worked with one time who, after years of not seeing him, called me completely out of the blue when I was so broken and my life had totally fallen apart. And he was like, so here's the deal. God just keeps pressing me to call you, and I really don't know why I'm calling you, but can you tell me why I'm calling you? And I was like, and I just kind of burst into tears and explained what was going on in my life. His name's Robbie Meadows. I'll never forget him, and will always be grateful for this. When I explained to him, and I said, well, this is what's happening, but I've written all these songs. And he goes, oh, well, then you're supposed to get in here and record. That's why I'm calling you. That makes so much sense. And I go, no. Like, my marriage is falling apart. I don't have any money. Like, there's no way I can do that. And I was like, I got him now. Like, I'm going to get out of this.
Right.
And he was like, oh, well, this is my ministry before it's my job. You're going to get in here and record, and we're going to talk about the money later. And I was like, oh, okay. And I in that moment was like, all right, Lord, I hear you. And I hung up the phone and I said, okay, God, here's the deal. I don't want to do this. The last thing I want to do is kind of bare my heart through music right now with everything that's gone on. But this has to be you. And so if this is you, I'm going to walk through the door, but you got to make things happen, because I have no interest in like storming down the music industry and trying to create space for myself or draw attention to myself. I don't want that. But if you want it to happen, I will be obedient. This is my very fragile yes. But you're going to have to do the hard work. And from then on, that moment on, it's probably been over 10 years, and it's been a very consistent like door. Here's a door. Here's a door.
Yeah. What would be another way? You said that there are different ways that you felt like God was telling you to do this, even though as you just said, you felt like you just didn't want to. It wasn't in your heart. It wasn't your passion. Like, what were other ways where you felt like it was a clear, like a message, or just at least leading,
Yeah. Well, a leading is a really great word, because it was like, I mean, there were moments where I definitely sensed the whisper of the Lord to like, no, really, I want you to do music. It was like that. There was some of that. There was definitely some, I'd be reading scripture and something would stand out to me and it would point in that type of a direction.
Yeah.
There was definitely like, the sound engineer calling me out of the blue. I mean, hello, that doesn't just happen. Nobody offers you free recording time essentially and says you can pay me back whenever. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah. So those were the kind of things that were like, okay, this can only be God, And then on top of that, there was just voice after voice of encouragement from people I respected in ministry, from friends, from family, from once I started putting the music out there and did follow through and recorded with Robbie and put music out there, I had people reaching out to me or coming up to me and saying, hey, you have no idea what that song did for me. Here's what, and it was moments like that I started to see God working and see that there was value in it and it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
And when I realized that it really wasn't about me, because I'd made it about me kind of in the beginning, it was like, well, I don't want to do that. I am not comfortable with that. I'm not good enough. I and all of my excuses were really about me. And when I really stepped into it out of obedience and watched the fruit of it unfold for other people, then I realized, oh, this is about ministry. And then it became a full yes. Then I was like, okay, God, I'll do it for that. I'll do it for that person. And recently had a woman come up to me after a show and say, I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for singing that song, Let Go, Let God, because I just got out of the psych ward at the hospital and I was suicidal. And I really needed to hear that tonight.
It's awesome. Wow. So awesome.
And I started tearing up and she was like, I'm sorry, is that too much for me to share? And I said, no, thank you for saying that, because, and I said to her, I wrestled with music. I didn't want to do this, but that moment makes me want to, because I'll do it for you, and I'll do it for, whoever God wants to encourage through a song I'll do it. I'll do it for that.
Later we're going to talk about kind of how the things that we make influence other people and create a ripple effect, which is what we're talking about. It sounds like that was almost part of what inspired you to do this. Like that when you started to see the influence of what you were doing, that almost became like kind of a catalyst for you wanting to actually pursue it.
Totally. Because when it became about serving other people, then it made sense to me. Because I really, I think in my head, and this is sort of maybe just like childish preconceived notions about what it is to be a musician, I just kind of always thought, well, musicians just want to be rock stars, and they just want to be up in front and be shown. And I was like, that's not me. I don't want any of that. I don't really care to be seen. I really don't want to make a name for myself or create a stage for myself or really even put on a show. Like, I'm kind of almost bucked on the inside against the idea of entertain me. I don't care about entertaining you, really. I mean, like, sure, let's have some fun together. I'm all about fun. I'm all about fun. You know that. Like, we love to laugh. Yeah. But I don't want to think about constructing a show for someone just for sheer entertainment value. That's not good enough for me. It has to be worth something more, something substantial. And so something eternal even, I would dare to say.
Yeah, sure.
And so when my understanding of what it could mean for me to be a musician changed, and it became more about serving other people, that made me want to do it.
Cool. Wow. I feel like that's a unique way of getting there.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to take a quick break before we come back. But you'd mentioned, was it Robert Meadows? Is that
Robbie Meadows.
Robbie Meadows. In a way, his decision to approach you created this ripple effect in your life,
Totally.
Right? And even the woman that came up to your table and encouraged you by sharing her personal story with you. I know for just about every creative that's probably watching, I don't think there's anyone that is not going to face discouragement at some point in time as a songwriter, as a creative, as an artist. And so when those seasons come, I guess how are ways that you, besides those people that approach you that are sensitive maybe to God's leading to come into your life and to encourage you in those moments, how do you find a way to continue to derive inspiration so that you continue to press forward and doing what you believe you should be doing with your music and your art?
That's a great question. I think I've been on this journey with the Lord in music long enough now that I have enough history and enough kind of moments that have marked it for me, that have been such confirmation that I was on the right track, that if ever I'm discouraged or there's not a presence of another voice saying, hey, thank you, that meant something to me. I remember those times that the Lord himself encouraged me or someone else encouraged me, or, that everything's a process in this life, right? So it's never gonna all be neat and tidy with a little bow on it like I used to want it to be. Right. So now it's, okay, I'm on a journey, and sometimes the journey's not easy. Sometimes it's an uphill climb. Sometimes it's windy. Sometimes it's rocky. Sometimes it's just downright uncomfortable, or I want to quit, or I want to whatever. But if I remember to step back and look at the big picture and remember the why, remember that God asked me to do this, remember that it does make a difference. Remember that I am on a mission, and sometimes I can't see what's ahead, but I know in being obedient and keeping on, and pressing forward, I'll get to a new place and another place of like, oh, okay, I was supposed to push on because this was supposed to happen for someone else, or,
Right. And, and actually just one observation too from the outside and knowing your journey and just doing ministry together for a long time, I think there's one thing that you're really good at too that's a component to your life and continuing to encourage you, is that you seem to gather around people that are fun-loving people.
Yes.
And there's like people that I would say have a ministry of joy in your life, and like comedy, because it lightens things,
Oh my gosh,
so
totally.
I mean, you seem like you have a lot of good people in your life that do that for you. How would you encourage other people to do the same, like find somebody that makes you laugh
Yes.
and have them lighten your life a little bit?
I love funny people so much because really laughter is the best medicine, right? Like scripture says it, and it's true. And life can get so heavy, and I found myself in places before of just getting so focused and so serious about, well, okay, God called me to do this, so I got to get like really serious and intense about it. But my dear friend Dia, God bless her, I remember one time when I was actually living in Nashville, I had gotten into this deep rut of almost like such intensity about trying to figure out what was the next right thing to do, what God had called me to do. And it was so serious and so heavy. She came home one day. She was like, girl, get dressed. We need to go have some fun. And she took me to Dave & Buster's here in Nashville. We went and we played all the games. And then we went to see the Lego movie. And then we went to Chewy's and had the best chips and salsa ever in life. And right? Am I right? Am I right?
Well,
Debatable?
I mean,
I think they
we're
are.
several
two Baja
schools of
burrito.
thought.
Oh,
like
okay.
fanboys,
Oh,
so-
I'll get a Baja burrito over a Chewy's meal any day, but give me
Okay.
the Chewy's chips.
Okay,
Okay,
I can see
Give
this.
me all the Chewy's chips.
Every episode devolving into just a Mexican food ranking
Yeah,
film. Yeah. Which would be fine. I just
Yeah.
want to go on the record.
yeah.
and
I
say
mean,
Be down for all that.
we've got the nuclear bomb of Mexican foods and Baja burritos, so we're going to win that argument.
Which, thank you for saying Baja, because now I need to make sure I go there before I leave town.
you're welcome.
Yeah, but yeah. Staying around fun people who keep you encouraged. Absolutely, because life can be discouraging. But you got to combat that somehow, and you cannot. Artists are the worst at getting up in their head, right? And getting like so on the inside. But fun is the perfect remedy for that. You just have to go live life. God meant for you to enjoy your life. Go live your life.
And I think the longer that you do it too, I think you start to see, like, it starts to not be as like, when you first start doing this for a living, you as you're talking about, you can get really serious. You can get really kind of, like you said, up in your head about it, and you start to kind of take all the things that you do very seriously and say like, all right, I'm about this, I'm not about this, But as you do it longer and longer, it starts to become more normal, and that's kind of a gift, because then, if you hang out with people that do this a lot, there's a lot more laughter, and there's a lot more enjoying it, and there's a lot less taking it seriously. And you realize that if you're kind of holding that stuff with open hands, that creativity flourishes, and joy grows. Whereas, if you're with a bunch of people who are like, I have to be taken so seriously.
Yeah.
The track listing on the back of my album, if it's not in the right order, will lead people down a dark path.
It's gonna be devastating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overthinking.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're going to take a break for a minute. We thank you again for joining in with us. We're here with Jessica Crawford, if you're just tuning in. And so just stay tuned. We're going to talk about her new EP, Honestly, when we come back from break. So
Any questions?
any questions? Yeah, send some questions our way. We'd be happy to answer questions during the broadcast or at the end of the broadcast. And thanks again for joining in. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Time slips by, and before you know it, days turn to years, and the unrecorded art becomes nothing but a memory, and sometimes even forgotten. My name is Ryan Clare. I'm not only a singer-songwriter, I'm a husband and a father. I'm a worship pastor dedicated to sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's the undying desire and passion within me to share my songs with the world. These are songs of hope.
Into the wall of the basement he calls home.
I've decided to be who I am, honestly.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to The Ripple Effect. We're here with Jessica Crawford, our guest from all the way from New Jersey. And I've got my co-host Joel Russo with me. So,
Hey everybody.
if you missed the first segment, we've been talking a little bit about getting to know Jessica. In this segment, we're going to talk about her new EP that comes out this Friday, which is called Honestly. Honestly was recorded up at Old Bear Studios. And actually, as of last week, it was in the top 5 of iTunes pre-orders sales, which was like really, really exciting. I think we should put our hands together for that. There's some hype. There's some hype about Jessica's EP. I know I'm hyped about it. I've heard it for a while. So check this out. So I went and I found on your website, your EPK says about Honestly. Now it is, I've heard it, it's a really honest album. And the pun was intended.
Nice work.
I needed it. We needed a kind of clever moment here, right? I mean, it might be cheesy. It could be really cheesy. We might have to
I just said I like
figure that
funny
out.
people, so good job, Ian.
So the EPK says that it's a vulnerable collection of songs that takes the listener behind closed doors into your real life struggles of betrayal, divorce, and health issues. So my question is this. So at what point did you decide as a writer and as an artist that you wanted to go there and share that and give this intimate portrait of your life?
That's such a good question. So during my time, I lived in Nashville for 5 years. I grew up in Virginia, lived there my whole life, and God opened a door for me here to come to a great ministry and kind of be a part of Provision International with inner city missions, but also like evolving in creativity. And I learned a lot from Scott McLeod in terms of songwriting, and that was huge and first step. And then worked with some other people as well along the way and it was kind of like as I started working with different songwriters who'd been in the city for a while and really were just longtime writers. There was a conversation that Michael Farron had with me one day that it really just kind of dug deep at. I asked him to critique some of my songs, and there was a song that I wrote about going through a divorce actually, and he was like, "This song should make me cry, but it's not making me want to cry. Like you need to write so honestly that you evoke emotion out of people, and that." It just is really more raw. He's like, you're kind of holding back, He's like, I want to hear what you would say if you just like wrote it in your journal. Mm-hmm. Like, how would you say it if you were just talking to somebody and you just spit it out? Like, It is what it is. This is what happened, and this is how hurt I was, and this is whatever, And so it really challenged me because I've been kind of really working on my writing and trying to write quality songs. But I think I had been missing a piece of the honesty and the rawness. And when I think about what makes me feel connected to people, it's vulnerability, It's when somebody's really real with me, I'll be really real with you too, yeah. And so as I'm listening to songs or whatever that connect and resonate with me from other artists, it's the raw ones that get you, right? Yeah. And so I kind of had to make a hard choice because, all right, being a Christian artist and talking about something like divorce or, the hard things and the raw and the real things, first of all, you feel like you're going to get judged. Second of all, you're like, do I even want to go there? Because this is my life. Yeah. And this is what, but the reality for me is that my most broken place, which was when my marriage crumbled, was the place where, number one, I found God in a whole new way. And number two, he called me to music and to ministry and told me, like, I was saying to God, now it's over. Like, what are you going to do with me now? And he goes, now we can get started. And so when I remember moments like that I encountered God so clearly, and he spoke to me, and he encouraged me that it wasn't when it didn't matter to him that everything fell apart in the way that I thought in my head meant that it was over. He was saying, no, like that's where we can start from. And so it turned into, well, then there must be value in talking about it for other people too. There must be value in being really real, I think that makes someone relatable. I think that makes someone human. I am human. Like, yes, I'm in ministry, and yes, I went through some really horrible things, really hard things, but the people I minister to every Sunday are going through really hard things. And I refuse to put on a face like I got it all together and my life has never been difficult, because what I realized is that when I open up and say, you know what, I get it. It's hard. I know it's hard, but let me tell you something, God is good. And this is how I experienced him in the brokenness. I think there's so much more power in that than just maybe even writing from a superficial angle of, well, let me rephrase that. I don't want to say superficial. There's value in just talking about the character of God and how good he is. But there's a different level that comes when you say, I know how good God is because this is what he did for me in my brokenness. And so honestly came about because I decided, when I sat down with the brothers McClurg to write, we didn't know we were writing the project, honestly, but we knew we were writing with the intent of, let's see if we write something that's worth recording. And as we did that, they started digging, and they did a really great job of asking me questions. And I would say things like, I know there are parts of my life that I just haven't been bold enough to talk about yet. And I haven't been vulnerable enough to share and to put into words and to put into song and find the right melodies for. And so they just started asking me questions about some of those things. And then the songs just kind of came. And now I feel like 97% just excited and ready to just put it all out there. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't like a 3% sliver that's still like, okay, let's see what the backlash is going to be and who has what to say about what. But the reality is, I know how I walked out my life before the Lord, and I know how hard I've tried to do right before him, and what I invested in previous seasons of my life. And I also know that even in the places that I tried so hard to make work that failed, he did what he always does. And Romans 8:28 says that God works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. And so I think these songs are just examples of that. He's worked all things together for my good in my life. And I am so grateful for that. And I would be doing God a disservice by not sharing about those things, by not getting honest about the way he's come through for me.
And as you're sharing that, we all lead worship, right? We're all involved in churches in a different way. So we all see a value in singing about the nature and the character of God and leading people to those truths. And we look to the Psalms a lot, right? As a place where we find comfort, as a place we find strength. And a lot of modern contemporary worship songs are directly derived from the Psalms, right? But I guess when I look at the Psalms, to me, it's very much what you're sharing personally, is like when you read David pouring out his heart, he's having a personal experience, he's giving it, there's things written in there that could probably mirror as a death metal lyric, for goodness sakes.
You're
like,
totally
God, could you go scalp my enemy? I mean, that's not something you're going to sing on Sunday typically, but it's how he's feeling. But we as a church will acknowledge that these are songs that are leading us into God's presence. Well, that started from a place of personal reflection, personal honesty with God. And so in a way, your album or your EP reminds me, in a sense, of this. The beauty of music and what's always drawn me to music and writing music is that you have the opportunity to make somebody else in the world feel like they're not the only person in the world that feels that way.
Right.
You know, it's a language that goes beyond
Yeah.
words. And so by sharing and opening up your heart, there's at least one person out there that's going to connect with your music in a very intimate and deep way.
I love that. I love that Psalms analogy too, because that's how these songs feel like.
It's funny, like as you were just talking about, like how, you know, there are certain songs that go this deep, and there are certain songs that go this deep, and how it's not right or wrong, you know, which is more valuable necessarily. But it is really interesting to think about. I think I assume probably all three of us could attest to this, that like, regardless of like album singles or, you know, pop sounds or current vibes, whatever, you know, like most of the time, the songs that come from kind of the most broken place, even if you have no idea how it's going to happen or what are the ways that those dots are going to be connected, those are the songs that people do come up and talk about the most. You know, we have this in the band that I play with, Carrollton, mini plug.
They're so good. Thank you for making quality music, by the way.
We have this song called Rebuilder, and it's a song that it's not like at all a single or you know, or it's very soft and slow. But it comes from a place of real brokenness and about, you know, and of being at a place where, you know, where it's not, you don't envy the person who's there necessarily, you know. And I would say, out of all the songs of the album, it's probably the song that's written from the place of most brokenness, and it almost inevitably is just every single time that we play it, that's something that people talk about. It's things that people tell us on social media or through a website or whatever. And it's amazing. We think so much in this industry about kind of like, how good does this sound? How big is this audience? How is big is the potential audience of this song or whatever? But so often the songs that connect are exactly what you're talking about. They're the songs that come from a place where it's like, I don't know how other people are going to relate to this, but right now I'm feeling this. And people somehow, you know, there's a little code almost embedded in that song that some people are going to recognize and relate to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you can't escape being human, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has emotions, and everybody has felt or will feel just about every kind of emotion there ever was, right?
Yeah.
So when you talk about the Psalms, it's like they're relatable. When you think about the Bible, I think anyway, the Psalms are the most relatable thing I could go to in any given moment when I'm feeling something. And so, what if I wrote songs that could be that kind of raw? Like you said, David just poured it out. He said the real. Like he's like, this is what it is. This is how I feel. This is what I'm experiencing. But God, you're good. You know, he oftentimes turned it around.
Yeah.
It was like, it could be like the most lamenting, depressing thing until he gets to the end. He's like, but God, I know you're good, and I know you've got me, and I know, you know.
And side note, it says in the scriptures that he's a man after God's own heart.
Yeah.
So that should be something that's noted.
Yeah.
As
That
songwriters.
he sees both sides and
Yeah.
he mentions both, absolutely.
Yep.
We have a question
Ooh.
for Jessica, which is, what is the most influential verse or chapter in your journey, speaking of Psalms?
Oh my gosh. That's such a good question. In my journey. Okay. Isaiah 54, when I was at my most broken place, it really, it talks a lot about,
That's such a good question.
like how God, oh shoot. All right, hold on. Where's my Bible? Can I just do this really quick?
Yeah. What was it?
Get to Isaiah 54. Yeah, it's beautiful. First of all, I love Isaiah because it's so...
Actually,
There's so
while
much.
you're
Go ahead.
looking at that, if you guys have any more questions, send them in. We'll
Send
answer them
them
through here. Again, it's the ripple effect if you're just joining us
This is proof that we are
live. We're live.
There it
And
is.
so,
Yeah. Okay, I found it. So part of what was so hard about my journey for me is that, I just wanted to be a wife and a mom. Like that was, if I thought about my future, I wasn't dreaming about music. That's what I was dreaming about, being as a wife and a mom and just kind of having a real normal life and a normal job and all of that stuff. But when everything was really falling apart for me, this is what really ministered to me deep. It says, "Sing, O barren one who did not bear a child. Bring forth into song and cry aloud, for you have not been in labor. For the children of the desolate one will be more than the children of her who is married, says the Lord. Enlarge the place of your tents. Let the curtains of your habitation be stretched out. Do not hold back. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes, for you will spread abroad to the right and to the left, and your offspring will possess the nations." And there, anyway, it goes on and on. But for me, I had to kind of come to this realization that, like, whatever is to happen in my future with marriage and children and all of that, and I believe God holds all of those things, but because it didn't happen in the way and in the time that I thought it was going to, or that it should, that doesn't mean that my life doesn't bear good fruit. And I have since been a youth director, mentored people in worship ministry, and am currently doing that, a lot of that, and so there's so much power for me in looking at my life and going, okay, so I don't have kids right now, but I get to be a mama to a lot of people in another way. I get to be a spiritual mama to people, and even on a Sunday morning leading worship and stuff, it doesn't even necessarily have to be people that are younger than me, but to help develop someone's faith, or to speak into someone's faith and help grow them from spiritual immaturity to maybe a deeper place, is a mothering in a kind of a way that God really, it's so cool that that God showed me that there was value in that, and that's something that He was doing in my life, even though my life didn't end up looking the way that I thought it would or should.
Right. Yeah. Well, back into the album.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this one song. It's called "Kill and Bury," which, speaking of things that could sound like a heavy metal lyric, this song. So the idea of the song is kind of like, I'm going to kill and bury my shame, my guilt. Am I leaving any of the other ones out?
Yep. It's good.
And so I resonated with that. I mean, I guess from what it's saying, but also just kind of the language. I enjoyed that it was kind of a pretty frank, stark kind of way of putting it. And I kind of wanted to ask, what was the writing process behind that, and was there any kickback as far as people feeling like maybe it was too aggressive or ugly language?
I love this question, because, all right, so I wrote for this project with Anthony Hoisington and Chris Hoisington of Brothers McClurg in their studio, Old Bear Studios, one more plug, and we were writing specifically about my experience with shame, because going through a divorce is absolutely something that is going to bring about shame in your life, or the feeling thereof, right? And for me, I was actually in ministry at the time, and so there was the added level of walking this out in front of ministry. Fortunately, I had a wonderful pastor who was super supportive and like really tried to cover me and protect me, but he couldn't protect me from everything. And there were things and that people said and did that that really were hurtful and made me feel even more shame. And so I had never talked about that publicly, and felt like I needed to, and felt like it was time. And so we were kind of like working through. I came in with kind of like the I know, like I had that song start idea, and we started to develop that. Then when we kind of started to develop a chorus, I was like, can we call it Kill and Bury? And I remember asking very hesitantly, like, I'm gonna kill and bury all my shame. And they were like, oh, that's kind of cool. I think that's how it happened. Or somebody threw out the idea, kill and bury, and then it evolved into that. And then I asked the question, can we call it that? Because it felt like so intense, Yeah. But then the more we kind of unpacked it and developed the song, and the guys were just so great at like really digging with me into the feelings and the not shying away from the rawness of it all. And so it just turned out in the end to feel like, no, this is what we need to call it, because you have to treat shame ruthlessly. You can't just like shoo it away into a corner. It's gonna come back and keep on biting you.
Proactive.
You've got to attack it and go, no, I'm not having this, you know. And for me, the ultimate picture is when Jesus was crucified and was buried. He buried all of our shame and all of our sin with him, right? So it got put to death. And so for me, when I sing it, I'm thinking, let's put it to death, you know, because Jesus died for it. He paid for it already. But unfortunately, shame is something that plagues so many people, and it kind of keeps coming back to haunt people. And so I think in the end, it was the right thing to say, no, we got to treat it really
Harshly.
ruthlessly. Don't let it stick around. No. Say no in Jesus' name, you know? Bury that stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
And I got a side note just on that too. If you actually purchase Jessica's EP right now, honestly, on iTunes pre-order, you can actually download that song right now. So
Sure can.
we're probably
Sounds like a deal.
Yeah, we're gonna put that link up after the show is over. So make sure you stick around and get that. So need to say that.
Thanks.
But I'll tell you that just leads me to another question.
Okay.
You know, based on what you're saying, and part of that is, you know, the industry. We've had these conversations before. The industry in general, music industry, can be kind of weird if you're a girl, based on expectations, based on presumptions. So, have you felt that personally? And if so, you know, how did you work through those things? Actually.
Oh, it's such a good question. How many times have I said that? You guys have asked some really good questions.
We really put a lot of thought into this. Really.
You did. You did. Great job.
Hey, we're here,
Great
man.
job.
Yeah.
Good team.
Hey, you're doing something right, I suppose.
My observation. Music is very male dominated. From everything from production to writing to industry moguls. Not to say that there are not some really amazing women in music. Not saying that at all. But the vast majority are men, I think. And so I perceive that it's easier for dudes to do relationship with dudes, right? Yo, bro, like you got your dude thing going on. And it's harder for us girls to break into that, you know? And build relationship. But really it is about relationship. And so I've also been really blessed to meet a lot of great dudes like the two of you who are warm and open to women being a part of the music industry and seeing our value and seeing that we have another side to offer and we have something that's worth sharing. But I will say too, one of the things that is kind of interesting to navigate is, okay, this is real talk, all right? So
this is where it gets good. Guys, tune in.
Let me roll up my sleeve a little bit and be careful how I say this because I do not want this to sound conceited in the least, okay? But it's almost like, be careful, girls. Like, don't be too cute. Don't be too pretty because you're going to be a stumbling block and you might not fit in this whole Christian thing because you might get misunderstood or your attempt to make a relationship, like a genuine, honest relationship with a married man, you could be a Jezebel or you could be a, conniving or you could be, like, you can get labeled a lot of really unfair things just because you're a girl. And now I don't think that's everybody, and I don't think it's, like something I've really had to fight against hard. I've found that just if you're faithful in being yourself and having pure motives, God will make a way, and you'll get connected with the right people, and you don't want to be connected with the wrong people anyway. And that's, I leave my relationship building up to the Lord. Like, who I need to be connected with, God, and so I just want to be faithful to build the right relationships in the right way. And so I have to be mindful to honor other people's relationships and marriages and be respectful, obviously, and I always would because that's my heart. But I think that's a challenge for girls in the industry.
Sure, that's not present there for guys.
Yeah.
Or at least not to the same degree in the same
Sure,
ways.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What we have another question coming in, which another one for Jessica. What is one thing you wish you had known when you were starting your musical career? And because of that last question, I will add also maybe say, what would you say to young ladies who are starting off on their musical careers?
Oh.
Maybe a girl specific
Ah.
shade. Is this where you
Tissues.
cry? Is this where she cries?
Yes.
Can we cue like the
Can
dramatic
I?
music, guys, please?
Yeah. Should I look at a camera?
That might be too dramatic.
Girls.
Yeah, that's just too much.
Okay. No, I love both of these questions, but I really would say to young women, like, you are enough. Who you are. I wish I could have said that to myself. I think comparison is the biggest enemy we have ever in life, because I always thought I wasn't good enough to be in music because I didn't measure up to blah, 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 blah. You know, I couldn't sing. I wanted to sing like Mariah Carey when I was 15, but I couldn't. You know, I didn't have that kind of voice. But if God's really called you to music, then who you are and what you have to offer is enough. And you have to encourage yourself in that. You have to believe in that. You have to choose to be confident in that, even when your feelings or others or opinions or comparison tell you otherwise. It's not about that. It's about who has God created you to be? What has He designed you to do? And how can you do that? Like only you can.
Right on. Boom.
It's good. Mic drop. Somebody have a mic in here we can drop it?
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So I think we're going to take another break for a second and come back with Jessica Crawford and ask some more questions. Thanks for tuning in again to the Ripple Effect. So we're going to take that break and be right back with you guys. Stay tuned.
Dear friend, don't worry about
So to me, the theme of the table is truly an invitation to listeners to come and interact with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And when you look at the Gospels, Jesus often, in his most intimate interactions, you'd find him at a table around his disciples or sharing the things of God with people through a meal. And we've sort of set this 10-course meal through 10 songs that allow us to gather around a table just like he did and have this very intimate sort of experience. And so that's why it's really important to me, because I believe that God is very much about intimate relationship, and the person of Jesus Christ demonstrates that through his life. And so as we set the trajectory of the song selection and the sound and the approach and the aesthetic of it, we wanted it to be a very intimate experience for listeners to feel that they could be like right in the room with Jesus, interacting with truths.
There are times when I feel like a beggar. My pride won't let me receive.
I've decided to be who I am, honestly.
So for our last segment here together, we're going to be talking about what we call the ripple effect, which is the name of our show. And I'm just going to read it for you the way I have it written down on this piece of paper, because we kind of put a lot of thought into this. Yeah. When we intentionally create something to influence the world in any way, we create what we have been referring to as a ripple effect. Much like a pebble dropping into a pond creates ripples that reach out much farther than its initial impact. So when we look at things this way, we end up with three main factors in the equation. So in this case, we're talking about art or work that we're doing and content that we're creating as a pebble, like a pebble that is being dropped into a pond and creating ripples. And so we're talking about the pebble, which is the content that we're creating. We're talking about the height from which that pebble is dropped. These are our three main factors, which I would classify as like help or support, people that are helping you get there, people that are pulling that pebble up to drop from a higher height or greater height. And then we have the ripple, the actual effect, like how we actually see our content influencing other people, and how we see it actually maybe doing good or bad. Who knows? Hopefully good. So we're gonna. So this is kind of our plan with this show. This third segment, we're gonna ask our guest to kind of reflect on what they've created. In this case, it would be your new EP. How you feel about all three of those factors with your own stuff. So Ian, take it away.
Ow.
So sorry.
Just kidding. All right. So the pebble, the content.
Pebble, yeah.
So what do you feel is strong about your songs? What do you feel is strong about what you do? With the pebble that you have in your hand right now.
Of course, you're gonna make me talk about my stuff. Okay. Surprise. I mean, we kind of already hit on the vulnerability of the songs, and honestly, it's pretty honest. So I'm proud of that. I'm glad that I went there. I'm glad that the guys, Chris and Anthony, helped me write songs that were really vulnerable. I'm excited about the way they turned out production-wise. Chris Hoisington is just a creative ninja. He's like, he's just mind-blowingly genius, and comes up with really creative ways to cultivate sounds in the studio, and heard something in Killenberry that made him think this gypsy jazz kind of flavor, which if you don't know what gypsy jazz is, I didn't, and I had to look it up. But when you hear it, you're like, that is really unique and cool. And so he finds interesting inspirations and really works them in well. And so I'm excited about the creativity in these songs. I don't think they really sound like anything else necessarily.
That's true.
And I'm so happy about that, because I really don't want to fit a box, and I don't want to try to just, dare I say, appease the CCM market or something. I just want to create something that's cool and honest and authentic.
Cool.
And
It definitely is all three of those things. It doesn't sound like, all the other stuff you hear on the radio. So
It's true.
good job.
Thanks.
Absolutely. So number 2,
Yeah.
the height that we're talking about here. Where do you feel like you need help, and where you need to depend on people to help you drop that pebble in the pond?
Yeah. Well, Chris, again, musical mastermind. I think I'm a stronger songwriter and very critical singer. Like I do plenty of a good job of criticizing my own voice in the studio. And so we're our own worst critics, right? So, but creatively and musically, I really rely on help. And the guys did an amazing job of arranging songs and bringing creative elements. Chris and Anthony and Jer Thompson on guitars. I mean, there was just so much cool stuff. And every musician that they brought in to play on the project really brought some flavor. And so it really ended up being such a cool team effort to create the overall sound and the vibe of every song. And they let me be a part of that, thankfully. But at the same time, I really needed them to make all of that happen, and it wouldn't have happened without them in the same way. And so I'm really grateful for that.
Sweet.
Yeah, Old Bear Records. You guys are amazing.
All right. And the third and final question, final answer. That was on a game show, wasn't it? Final
Yes.
answer?
It was.
Okay. I don't know which one. Which one
But
was
you're
that?
supposed to ask me
Who else
after I
do you
answer.
need?
You say, "Is that your final?"
Is that
Ah,
okay?
yes.
You're
We'll
right.
get it next episode. Don't worry about it.
These are growing pains, guys. Just
fine.
show us some grace
It's all
here.
gonna be fun.
That's fine.
So, how do you hope that your album is going to affect and influence others? But also, how have you seen this music influence others? Because you've been sharing some of those songs live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my greatest hope is, number one, always that that the songs and the lyrics and the truths written into them would draw people closer to Jesus. This is not about making me famous. This is about making Jesus known, making him real to other people, making his truth something that people can grasp and understand. And then second to that would be encouraging people. I think that's something I like to do in life anyway. I get such joy out of encouraging other people. It really just, it's like a fun game. And so I want to make music that really encourages people on a deep level. And so the fruit of that, to talk about, shows and stuff, I had a dad come up to me and say, before I'd even recorded Let Go, Let God, he said, my daughter heard you sing that song at a show, and it really spoke to her. She's really battling anxiety. And I was like, really? I'm so glad, number one, I'm so glad that ministered to her, but can I send her just like a rough work tape of the song? And so I texted it to her, and they have since like come to shows and connected with me, and she's just so grateful for that, and she's doing great, and she's made some real great steps in school and in her professional life, and so it's like she's getting some breakthrough, and to be a part of somebody's steps in their life of going through real life things and battling real life things and getting to a better place. And then of course the lady who came up to me after talking about I was suicidal and in the hospital, and that song really encouraged me. I mean, it's moments like that you can't make that stuff up, and you cannot put a quantize what that means, and so I'm just so grateful to even have a couple of little stories to share about somebody connecting with a song and feeling encouraged by it. But really, if it's drawing people closer to Jesus or into a better understanding of who He is and His heart for them, and if it's encouraging them, I'm good. That's what I want to. That's what I want to do.
Again, like I think it's really cool. Again, you were talking about how that's one of the things that inspired you to really stick with it in the first place. So in some ways, it's kind of a full circle. And that last question is almost redundant because you made it clear that that's the kind of something that fueled you, and that's something that inspired you right at the beginning.
Yeah.
So it would make sense that as time goes on, you'd be looking for that stuff. It's awesome.
That is awesome. Incredible heart. That's just really, really awesome.
God's just been good to me, and I just got to talk about it.
It's good stuff.
Well, one question that we want to ask everybody that we have on the show, I think we have time for it, is something that another thing that we've talked about a lot, and I feel like people are starting to finally cozy up to the idea of failure, and people are starting to finally kind of acknowledge that. Just that I've noticed people talking in public places makes it sound like I was just in a coffee shop hearing people talk about messing up, but on podcasts and in books and things like that, and just through personal conversations, people are starting to get more comfortable with failing and talking about that and how important that is and how much we learn from that. So the question that we want to ask everybody is, what is something that you learned from a failure that you feel like you couldn't have learned from a success? You can interpret that however you want. But what do you think that you've learned from a failure that you know that if that thing worked out, if you had succeeded in that thing, you might have walked away with success, but maybe not that nugget of truth or of wisdom.
That's good.
Well, the most major thing that keeps coming to mind, and we've talked about a good bit tonight, is when the marriage that I invested my life in and really tried my hardest for, really, when that collapsed, I thought my life was over. I really thought, music ministry, anything that I thought maybe God was calling me to, we're done now. But it was in that failure that I learned that sometimes your rock bottom is the perfect place for God to rebuild a life. And so I'm so grateful for learning that, because I was always the I don't like to mess up person. I was like the kid who really didn't need much correction because I hated messing up, and I didn't want to get a spanking, and just knowing that was a potential was enough to keep me on the straight and narrow, or and I was like kind of straight and narrow in high school and things like that, and I just didn't want to mess up. So I was really afraid of failure. So when that failed, it felt like such a personal failure for me, but it became the thing that God was able to do something in the midst of that I never could have seen. And so it was like learning a new dependence on God and watching Him rebuild my foundation of my faith and my trust in Him. And then on top of that, redirect my life in such a way that all of the pieces just fell into place. And He literally rebuilt me from the bottom up. And so I guess to kind of sum it up, I learned that failure can be a starting point and not the end. And I needed to know that because I was always afraid of failure. And I was always kind of like trying so hard, just trying so hard in life to do the right thing and to make it all look good and be acceptable to other people and make it pretty on the outside and whatever.
Yeah.
But it was what it was, and God is who He is, and He's done something.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about it.
It's awesome.
That is awesome. Well, we want to thank you so much for making time and coming down from New Jersey and sharing about Honestly. Guys, I can't say enough good things about the Honestly EP. If you haven't downloaded it yet, definitely check for that link after this episode. Generally, at the end of each episode of The Ripple Effect, we want to share just a few things with you that maybe each of us personally want to shine a light on briefly. So I'm actually going to turn it over, even though we've talked a lot about Honestly. Is there a few things that you want to promote, Jessica, about things that God's doing in your life right now, or things you have coming up that you want to tell people about or direct them towards?
Yeah, I would love for you to know that, like Ian said, Honestly is available for pre-order right now on iTunes, but on Friday, it's going to be available everywhere. If you're a Spotify or a Pandora or a Google Play listener, whatever it is, it's going to be out there, and I'm super excited about it. And if you would be so kind as to connect with Honestly on whatever platform you love to use, I would be really grateful for that. And more importantly, if you know someone who you feel like these songs would really help or connect with on a heart level and encourage them, please share it with them. That's what I really want, is to reach out to people who need the message of these songs to be encouraged. And of course, you can find me on Instagram. I have a Facebook page, Jessica Crawford Music. I have a YouTube channel too, and I'm going to be launching a cool new series called Be Honest. And
I see what you did there.
Did you see that? Yeah, pun intended.
Very good.
And so anyway, there's more to come, and we're going to keep this conversation about honesty going. So I'm super excited about all of that. And just want to say a special shout out to my Fountain of Life family in New Jersey and Pastor Russ Hodgins, who has been incredibly supportive. Yes! So supportive. This project wouldn't have been possible without his support, and I'm just deeply grateful for that and for the love and the support of my faith family.
That's awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Joel.
Me?
Yes, you.
Right on. Oh, that was way harder than my.
Well, you're bigger. You can take it.
You're right. Thanks, man. I Carrollton. You can go find us at Carrollton Band, a different social media platforms. But we have some shows coming up. We're playing with Jason Gray in Charleston, West Virginia, and I think Richardson, Texas, which I think is around Dallas. Also with Jason. And then we're going on tour in October, and we're playing all over, so check our website for that. We have a new EP coming out September 21st.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Which is it's called Made for This, and it's 4 songs, and it's kind of just fun. We just had a lot of fun with it, and so it's just rock and roll songs. Our album was very deep and kind of introspective and this one's just kind of the flip side of that. We just kind of had a good time and made stuff that was really fun for us to play and to listen to. And so yeah, we're going to be on tour with Trent and Shelley Monk, who are called We Are the Monks, and I produced their newest album, which is going to be coming out soon. So yeah, they'll be on tour with us in the fall. That's all I can think of.
Man.
Ian, how about you, buddy?
Okay.
I like
That
that.
might be a thing.
The
I
bro
like it.
love.
I
The
kinda
bro
like
love.
it, you know?
This is what she was talking about.
This is exactly why
Yeah,
girls
it's the
feel like they
dudes
don't have a
being
place in the
dudes
industry.
being dudes. So I would say I would at least, Old Bear Records is helping to make this possible, and so I want to, if you're interested at all in Old Bear Records, I would encourage you to stop by our Instagram, which is at Old Bear Records, or go to the website www.oldbearrecords.com, or go check out some of the other artists on our merch store, which is www.oldbearrecords.merchnow.com. I know we're going to put up a link afterwards, so go check out some of the other artists. We're an organic community that loves each other well and supports each other and encourages each other. So go check out the other artists on the label. I would also encourage you, we're going to be out on tour next week, starting next week, Brothers McClurg and Friends. And actually Jessica will be on that tour.
Can't wait.
Ryan Clare from Old Bear Records, Brothers McClurg headlining. I'll be on that tour. We're going to be in Vermont. We're going to be in New York and Katyville. We're going to be in Danbury, Connecticut Community Coffee House, which you guys are going to be at, I think, the following month. We love that place. And we're actually coming up to the Adirondacks, Queensbury, New York, which is my old stomping grounds. So I'm really, really excited to see people there. There's tickets available. That'll be on a link that we provide afterwards. So make sure you come out to that show. There's limited tickets available for that one, so you're definitely going to want to get that. So apart from that, I think that's it. Just excited that you guys joined us for the Ripple Effect. We're going to have another episode next month. We'll announce pretty soon who the guest will be, so stay tuned on that. Follow our Instagram at the Ripple Effect _show. And I think that pretty much wraps up. That's premiere night.
Is that the first show?
First show ever.
Is it a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Woo!
So thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you again on the Ripple Effect.
And you want to hit him with the catchphrase?
I think we do. We got a catchphrase we've been throwing around. We're going to see if it sticks or not, but let's just give it a shot.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
We talked about pebbles.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about ripples. So the catchphrase is
Plop, plop, little pebbles.
Ooh. I didn't know we were doing the whole thing. We'll do the whole thing. Ready?
Yeah, okay, ready.
Plop, plop, little pebbles.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Bye.